Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. So this is the first class I'm teaching from my new desk setup. So some students got me a standing desk to help with my posture. And I'm not doing that now because I'm working on it. But the layout's nice. It's an incredible piece of equipment. And I decided I'd change my background to make it a little more interesting. So anyway, let's go ahead and do our opening prayers and our rejoicing. So Mike, if you lead us in the mandala, please.
Tati Poki Jokshin Metotron Riraling Shin Inde Yampandi Sange Shindu Mete Ogi Jokun Nanda Lakshina Drupar Sho Idam Guru Ratnamandalakam Niryatayami.
Here's the greater, I'm sorry. Go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration, wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. So, rejoicing. Let's see. I'm going to start from the lower right-hand corner, and that would be Katya.
Hi, hello, everybody. Well, I rejoice that I help my father to do some reservations for a flight. He has some troubles with that, so I help him with a lot of passions, and I very happy of that.
And that will provide you the help you need where's he going?
To Sydney,
Sydney?
Sydney, yes,
Australia?
yes.
What's he going to do in Sydney?
He wants to run a marathon.
No kid. So that's where you guys got the marathon bug.
Yes, because of him.
Oh, oh, so he knows David Scott then.
Yes, also he knows it.
Uh, wow. How old's your dad?
It's 78.
Now get out of here.
Yes.
78. Very good.
Yes,
Wow.
and he's really healthy and he wants to do it. So he's really happy and
And
about that.
can you beat him? Do you have a better time than he does?
Yes, I have better time.
Oh, good. Oh, that's very fun. Sydney's a wonderful place. Australia is is it going to be in Sydney?
Yes,
Uh,
in the city.
have you been to Sydney?
No,
He's not
maybe
taking
you can give us some tips.
Okay, that's my next geographic location. Will have to be Australia. I was in Australia for 6 months when I was 16, and we went to school. It was extraordinary, just extraordinary part of my life. But anyway, okay. So thank you. That's excellent rejoicing. Let's go down to Daria. Daria, what do you have to rejoice in today?
Good morning, Venerable Sumati. Today I rejoice to see a lot of happy people who can say what he's rejoiced because today, all day, I started stop complaint and say, oh my God, I'm tired, very tired, but today I read about Shantideva and I'm wondering, he's so Superman. He always think about people, how help him, and I won't stay like here, but now I'm compliant only, and I'm happy read this about this person.
No, that's the Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life. It was written by Master Shantideva and is an incredible,
Yeah.
I think of maybe one of my most favorite things in the teachings is looking through his Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life. I've collected quotes when I read a chapter and I like one of the phrases. I have a series of collected quotes from him that I use when I teach. Really extraordinary. It's interesting. There are I have several different versions of a translation, and I still like the first translation that Stephen Batchelor did many years ago. He's a very famous translator. He redid it many years later, thinking he had done a poor job. I liked his first one better, and that's the one I have. So excellent. Well, you're on the way with the Bodhisattva Vow course. So good. Okay. Katerina, what do you have to rejoice about?
Hello, I'm glad to see you all. My kids, they have now holidays, and we have a little vacation in my hometown. And now I'm in my parents' home, and I rejoice that I connected him.
That you're able to connect to the internet. Well, that's wonderful. Excellent. Have a good time. Okay, who's left on the list here? Svetlana, what do you have to rejoice in?
Hello, the Venerable Sumati. I'd like to join a rejoicing of Katya that my father too visiting Sydney in the upcoming days. So yeah, it's a wonderful coincidence. Yeah, and then I'd like to rejoice that I did retreat on the weekend and it helps a lot to change daily reality, at least attitude to it. So daily life becomes happy a little bit. And also, I'd like to share a question from the home task from the previous class. What vow is the most difficult to keep from the root vows right now or later? Yeah. And I was considering, and maybe the 18th one, because of our self-cherishing and grasping our self-existence, I felt like fear of losing what I have, which is not self-existent. It can like be a risk to keep this vow at some circumstances, and I think for me this vow is the most important to keep and to take it careful.
Very good. Very good. Well, now we're on the topic of the homework question. Let's go back and review that. Mike, what do you have as your value?
I was thinking about this one, and I think rejecting the practice of quietude by favoring spiritual intellectuals over meditators. I think for me, that one, I take it as I spend like so much time studying Dharma and like doing homeworks and going to classes and going to retreats and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But then like my meditation practice isn't all that I want it to be. So I think that I devote more of my resources in terms of time and attention to study, where I should really be putting some more time and effort into deepening my meditation practice. Not that I don't have a meditation practice, I have a meditation practice, but I just think that I spend more time. If I had to draw a pie chart of of where I spend my time, it's like learning and then like meditation.
Well,
So
that's an interesting thing. It would be try tracking for the next week and be honest with yourself. It doesn't matter what the numbers are that come out. I think they'll amaze you. Keep track of how much time you spent studying, how much time you spent on your business, how much time you spent eating, and how much time you spent meditating. I think it's a lot to keep track of, but I think you'll find that it's not as bad as you think. Because the studying is, I mean, you're meditating on what you study. And so if you don't study, your meditation suffers. If you study too much, if you meditate too much, your study suffers. So I'd try doing that. I'd be curious. I'd be very curious. Okay, Katrina, what was the hardest, what's the most difficult vow for you to keep? I'm assuming you have taken the vows. Katrina, hello?
For me, the hardest one is regular practice in the morning to wake up earlier than my family. And, when it is quiet and I need help to translate. Mm.
Well, it's difficult to find the time to meditate and to practice, especially with a family. But
Yes,
if you don't carve out a spot, you'll find you keep putting things off. So I encourage you to try the best you can. When you're visiting family and they're doing things, I think you have to be generous with your participating in the family events, not say, oh, I've got to do my practice. I can't go do this with everybody. Because Buddhism gets a bad rap for that. Oh, they're Buddhists. They don't care about our family. And you do care. So you have to be sure not to go overboard either direction. It's a tough. The good thing, I didn't have much trouble with it because both my lovely wife and I dove right into the practice. So it wasn't a matter of one of us wanting to do something and the other saying, no, I can't. So, so try the best you can. It's like so many things in Buddhism. It's your motivation, and you do the best you can. And don't compare yourself to other people. Do the best you, Katrina, can do, and still have a family that is interested in your studies, whether they join you or not. They're not. They don't see themselves in competition. What you don't want your family to feel is a competition between Dharma and them. That sets up divisiveness, and they'll end up not liking the idea of Buddhism, or you'll end up not wanting to do things with them. So keep an even. Well, it'd be a good thing for you to try too, is keep track of the time during the day, during the next week, and don't. How can I put this? Don't. It's an exercise to see. Don't criticize. Don't feel badly if you find out that you're not doing much in the way of your practice. The whole point of the exercise is to see how you're doing in your practice. And if you're not doing well, then fix it. If you're doing well, great. But it's not, I'm not gonna judge you on it. I'm just asking you to take a look at it and see if there's room for change. Okay. Katya, which one do you think is the hardest?
For me, it's like a talk about unimportant things.
Oh.
Yeah, like superficial talks, because I'm in sports sometimes, and with the other people, I talk about tennis and about times, about competitions and all that. So it's like non-important things. And sometimes I try to change the talk, but sometimes not, because the gossip is very good.
Well, I think gossip is an interesting problem, because that's like family. If you go in to get a cup of tea or coffee and they're gossiping and they ask you something, you go, I can't talk to you, I don't gossip. Well, that's terrible. That gives Buddhism a terrible name. So you have to do it skillfully, and try and, if there's a topic, there must be a reasonably good topic for gossip, versus the bad ones where you complain all the time. For instance, now the gossip in our environment is what's the latest thing President Trump has done that's so idiotic. And we can go down that road, or we can say, okay, we can talk about it, but what can we do to solve the problem? So it's turning the gossip around into something useful. And if someone's talking about their times, you could say something like, well, how are you going to improve on that? Or do you want to improve on it? Are you comfortable with it? And not from a standpoint of you're right and they're wrong, but kind of engage them a little bit into the meat of the conversation instead of the superfluous stuff. Um, yeah, that's gossip. Gossip's a tough one, because you're right, it's fun. It's fun to gossip. Okay, Daria, how about you?
I don't know.
You don't have one you have a problem with? Or the most difficult vow?
Difficult? Yes, I think it's about angry, about lie,
So you have more,
all about with where the talk about lie and angry. It's for me very difficult.
Mm.
I always write in my diary, it's okay, it's minus, I can't stop. I'm sorry.
Well, they're all important. Obviously, they wouldn't be the 8 routine vows. Anger, I find myself getting more frustrated in the recent weeks as I'm playing with the medication. I wake up now and my left hand's going nuts, and I don't like that, and I don't know what to do about it. And I get mad. I get mad at myself. So I'm in trouble because I consider myself a aspiring bodhisattva, and I can't get mad at myself or I'm doomed. But so that's yeah, it's something to wrestle with, and that's the whole point of talking about it is if anger is the issue, then you know it, and you know the trouble with anger, and you have to just settle down and do something about it. So when I get mad at myself, I think, well, you can do better. You don't want this kind of anger in the future in your life, period. So stop responding that way. And it works most of the time. I'm beginning to have trouble cooking, and that really has me concerned because I like to cook, and my wife doesn't like, she's not that she can't cook, she's used to having me cook. So I'm not sure what's going to happen down the road. But instead of dwelling on that, I just do the best I can. And that's all I can do. Okay, who do we have left? I think that's it. I asked everybody. Oh, how about me? What's the most difficult one for me? Hmm. I think the one I have the most fun with is not telling lies. I actually have fun with that because then the fun comes from how can I say what I want to say without it being a lie? And then catch myself. So, for instance, someone says, how many students are going to be in Armenia for the teaching? I could say, I don't know, which I don't. They're aiming for, I think, 35 or 40. But instead of saying, oh, we're going to have 50 or 60, it's going to be huge. I've never been tempted to say that. I just say, I believe we're going to have 35 people. Now, if it's 30 or it's 40, I believe that. I didn't say it. That's the exact. What's a better example? Oh, people ask me how much, well, pipe we laid for the water system. And Geshe usually gives some number that's enormously exaggerated. And I don't remember now. So I say, I believe it was a couple of miles. I could say it was 5 miles and everybody go, oh, 5 miles of water pipe. But I don't know that that's true. Now, how important is that? In the bigger picture of things in the world, it isn't. But for me, for my karma, for what I want in the future, it's absolutely important. So you have to be careful to make sure that when you say, well, it's not that important, really evaluate what you're saying when you say that, because you're making your world, it's your presence, your future. And if lying is something you don't think is important, then get ready for people not to give you good information, which is what's happening now for my wife and I and President Trump. in a previous life, we must have been the most arrogant, self-centered ones, not to tell the truth, people on the planet. And that's ripening now as President Trump. So I need to be sure that I don't accuse people of things without being sure what I'm saying. And I don't like accusing people of anything. I think that's a trait that I've never really had. But you see how this all works into everyday life. And that's the whole point of the 18 root vows and the 46 secondary. How can you, Lord Buddha put this all together to make sure that people were practicing the best, had the best practice possible so they could reach enlightenment. It has nothing to do with making it hard on people or inconvenient or not fun. It has everything to do with setting the conditions for us to reach our nirvana or our total enlightenment as soon as possible. So thank Lord Buddha for doing this. Thank Master Shantideva for putting together such a beautiful text on it. Okay, so here we are. So we've learned the general and detailed aspects of the 18 root vows. Anyone who's taken a higher tantric initiation has taken the Bodhisattva vows. But I have a student that didn't even know she'd received them and taken a higher tantric initiation. So thank goodness for the detail of the ACI courses. We probably have an inkling that to actually break these vows well, at least the 18 root vows, well, 16 root vows, not the two that this doesn't apply to. You must meet criteria, specific conditions, and mentally affected conditions. So breaking a root vow, there are 3 results from breaking a root vow. You cannot see emptiness directly with bodhicitta in your heart. Thus, you can't reach the first bodhisattva bhumi in this life. The direct perception of emptiness is like stepping on the conveyor belt out of this life. So you don't want to do anything that would jeopardize that. Breaking a root vow makes it difficult to meet spiritual teachers in the future. And number 3, you can't increase the virtue needed to see emptiness anymore. And that what you have will not ripen in this lifetime. The process of getting to see emptiness directly is stopped, but is not destroyed. So how do you really break a bodhisattva vow? There's a system called the 4 chains. These must be in your mind as you're planning the deed and then carrying it out. So number 1, not to consider what you're going to do or doing as something wrong. If you think it's wrong to do the deed at any time during or before you do it, even for a moment, you don't break the vow. To still be willing to do it again. If you have one moment of regret ever, you don't break the vow. Interestingly enough, if you ever think that what you did was wrong and you think, I will never do it again, you don't break the vow. Classic monastic example is sexual desire. A monk who's overwhelmed by sexual desire knows they cannot restrain themselves. They know it's wrong. They didn't break the vow, but they do damage it. Secondary vows are like that. If we're fighting our mental afflictions and succumb, it's not as bad as just giving in without a fight. The third of the 4 chains, you enjoy doing it. If you regret doing it, then you don't break the vow. And number 4, You don't have any shame about doing the deed for reasons relating to yourself. You didn't avoid the deed because you don't care about what others think and don't have any conscience. What's the difference between shame and conscience? Anybody want to try? Shame refers to the fact that only you know what you did and you won't do it again. Conscious refers to you don't do it because of what others would think. So all four of these factors must be complete to break a root vow. So I'm not going to say you won't break a root vow, but it's difficult to do. You have to really try to break a root vow. If you have a moment of regret or conscience, and you do not enjoy doing the deed, or you think it's wrong, if any of these happen for a moment at any time, you don't break the vow. If you commit one of the 16 root downfalls without all four of these, it becomes a secondary downfall. So a medium breaking of one of the root vows is not to think of it as wrong and to have one or two of the other factors present. Your vows are damaged by this. To restore them, you must collect 3 people together and confess the deed to them. So this is more to do with the ordained community. A small breaking of root vows, not thinking it's wrong, but to do any of the other factors, to repair the vows, confess to one person. So to really have all 4 of these states of mind, you must carry out, and after the fact, you have to really decide to break a vow. So all the detail in studying these up to this point was important because we learn about the negativity of certain behaviors and teaches us to examine carefully what we're doing all the time. So you don't think a deed is wrong and you did it. You thought about it again and don't have any regret. You're glad you did it and would do it again. You don't have any shame or conscience. That's you broke. If all those 4 chains, 4 aspects of the chains are committed, then you've broken the vow. However, there are 2 that, number 9 and number 18, that don't require any of these chains of 4 chains to break it. If you break any one of the root vows, you destroy all your bodhisattva vows and must retake them. And you will not get to the first bodhisattva bhumi in this lifetime, which means you won't see emptiness directly. In order for a confession to be of any value, you must have 4 attributes in your mind. The 4 opponent forces, also known as the 4 powers of purification. Refuge, regret, restraint, and remedy. So let's go through the 4 powers again. Before we do that, the point I want to make very clear is, don't think that it's hard to break the bodhisattva vows so you can do what you want. The bodhisattva vows are there to help you create the karma necessary to see emptiness directly as soon as in this life, if possible. So we say you don't break the vow, but you damage the vows. And a damaged vow is not a good thing to have. So, okay, the 4 powers or 4 opponent forces. Now, as I've said before when I teach this, sometimes the first and second are reversed. So you may see that. It doesn't mean I taught it incorrectly. It means I taught a different form of it. So refuge. This is the basis force. This is your foundation. If you want a stable house, to build a stable house, you need to have a solid foundation. Recall why you took refuge, why you're taking refuge 3 times a day and 3 times at night. Recall your commitment to reach the direct perception of emptiness. Recommit to your bodhicitta, your bodhisattva ideal. And probably most important is remind yourself how karma and emptiness work hand in hand. If you find yourself saying it's my karma, but you're slipping into the wrong direction. It's my karma, so. Lord Atish used to carry a small stupa around with him, and every time he realized he'd had a bad thought, he would stop what he was doing, pull out the stupa, and do the 4 powers. So I imagine those who traveled with him had great patience. Considering we do not know when we will die, we need to keep the 4 powers available and use them often. So the second of the 4 powers, regret. The intelligent regret of an educated Buddhist. Cold, hard logic shows how karma and emptiness works and what lies in store for you having done the deed. You've heard the story of the 3 guys in the bar. Have you heard that one about the poison? Yeah. 3 of them all drink in sequence. The first keels over. The second starts to choke, and you, the 3rd guy, are going, oops, because you swallowed the same poison and you're about to experience the results. So the idea there is don't do something like don't break a vow, period. Restraint force. Stop doing it. Set a time limit you can keep. Otherwise, you're lying to yourself. Bad habits can be reformed into a good habit of not doing the deed anymore. I had a friend who smoked all the different kinds of things you could smoke for many years. He was in the Navy. He was a captain of a submarine. And on his 60th birthday, he stopped smoking, period. Now that's an immense, my hat's off to him to be able to stop doing that and have the self-control to do that. It's possible. And the last one's a remedy, the antidote force. Do something to make up for your misdeed. Most powerful is studying emptiness, meditating on it, trying hard to understand it. Powerful because when you really understand it, you know that there's nothing in this world that is anything other than your projections. We read the Diamond Cutter Sutra many times over the year. We just don't read it when we take the course 6. That's a very powerful remedy, antidote for us. And if that's too long or something like that, read The Source of All My Good or the 3 Principal Paths. So here are some things you can do for the antidote forces. Recite holy names. You can do the 35 Buddhas practice. Recite holy mantras. Study or read the scriptures. Meditate on emptiness. Make offerings to holy objects. The highest offering is to succeed in your practice, to do what your Lama has taught. The Vajrasattva meditation is most powerful because it incorporates this. Master Asanga mentions there are two ways to lose your bodhisattva vows, but we have studied a collection of vows that are his, and there's a third. Break the root vow of holding wrong view. Break the root vow of giving up bodhicitta, and formally give them back. These vows are forever. They go with you into your next life, unlike the lifetime vows or the tantric vows. Now, if they go into you in your next life and you don't know you've had them, and you're doing things that are wrong, are you breaking the vows? Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Michael's Heart Lama, said that. And you go into your next life until you get given the bodhisattva vows again. You don't get in trouble for breaking them if you don't know what they were. So I'd like you to meditate on the four chains and how close you come with all four in the last 24 hours. So, any questions? Go ahead, Claire.
Thank you so much, Venerable Sumati. Can I clarify, like, if we uh, uh, not follow some root vow, so we are damaging it, and then, for example, we are forgetting it, and then we have just a general confession that I regret about all those vows, not keeping my vows, general confession, but not remembering this particular vow or instance. Does it count as one of the chains, or
Well,
not?
that's an interesting question, Svetlana. I've learned, I learn whenever I teach, I go back and look at like the source of all my good or something like that. I go back and look over my teaching notes and try and update them or go back and really check out what I'm going to say. And I had forgotten quite a bit about the four powers. The four powers said regularly can purify all the karmic deeds you've ever done in your many lives. And you don't need to know the specifics. I need to follow up on that because I find that difficult to comprehend. But when you do the four powers, according to was it Lord Buddha? Yeah. Lord Buddha says, do the four powers every night, and you will destroy many, many lifetimes of ignorance. The point is, you've got countless lifetimes of ignorance. So you get started now, you're still not going to get rid of all of them. The four powers covers anything you've done wrong. If I'm interpreting this right, you do the four powers, it covers anything you've done wrong, period. But the four powers have to be done very sincerely. And I think most of us do a quick four powers and not maybe not doing the same job as really sitting on your cushion or taking a quiet moment during the day at work and reflecting on the vows the thoughts that you have that may have broken a vow or set seeds you don't want. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, thanks a lot.
It's the thing we have to remember about the four powers and confession and all that is don't use it and say to yourself, oh, I can break a vow. I can do something that's close to breaking a vow because I haven't done all four chains, so I haven't really broken it. So I'm okay. I'll do 4 powers. No, don't say, well, because you've done something, you can rely on the 4 powers to purify it. That's just stupid, to be blunt. So if any of you ever want to confess to something you did that you're not particularly proud of, and you want to do it in person, well, I can't come to Guadalajara, but if you want to, I'm more than happy to listen. And I do not judge people. I try and help them with how they can stop breaking a vow. So consider me a resource for this if you'd like. And we won't record it. Okay. Well, another short class.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Should we, to restore the vow all the time, find some person and confess to them personally? Or could we do it like by fire puja in front of the Buddha, imagining some Buddhas? Or should we find some living being and confess personally?
Well, that's another very good question, Svetlana. The confession should be to someone who understands the vows. So you can't confess to your dog or your cat. Yeah, well, maybe your dog or cat understand the vows, but it has to be someone. So if you went up to your mom and said, I confess I broke vow, root vow number 12, she goes, oh, well, okay, whatever. That's not a valid confession. The confession has to be to someone who understands them and may not have taken them for all that matters. I think that's true. So they have to understand the seriousness of what you've done. Now is the second. Oh, so yes, if all else fails, a very powerful and perfectly good way of doing it is the fire puja with the sesame seeds, or even just confessing at your altar to Lord Buddha. That's about as powerful as you can get. The point of doing it to a person is there's a certain amount of humility that you're confessing to. Which is not a bad thing. You have to, that's something to struggle with. But you're not asking for absolution from them. You're not asking them to say, you're absolved from having broken the vow. What you're doing is mentally you're following the mental process with a verbal process. It's like reading the 18 root vows and the 46 secondaries and saying, I'm going to follow the Bodhisattva vows because I think it's a great idea. That's good. That's wonderful. But it's more powerful to take the vows in the form of action. Okay, well, let's dedicate. What do I want to dedicate today? So let's dedicate what we've just learned to for the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma taught by the Buddhas, always increase. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to teach. And don't get depressed over these vows. And if you've broken them, if you're a terrible human being, the vows are there to help guide your life, not to be frightened of. So take them as, well, how can I make an analogy? They're the BPS, the Buddha positioning system. They allow you, like global position system allows you to navigate the world. The Bodhisattva vows allow you to navigate the Mahayana practice, and as such are a critical component to your Mahayana practice. So, okay. Did you have a question, Katrina? Okay. Okay. We will see you. Oh, yeah, we have class. We have class Thursday. Yeah. Okay.
May I also ask a question,
Sure.
but I need help to translate. Светлана, can you help me? Могу ли я задать вопрос
Can
про
I
вот этот
ask
обет
a
вспоминать 3
question
раза
about
свое прибежище,
the
3
vow
раза
to take
ночью,
the
3
refuge
раза
3 times during the
ночью?
day and 3 times during the
Если
night?
я заполняю дневник
Sure.
If I write
может ли
my
это быть
diary,
как принятие
can it
прибежища, или это
be
единственное
like taking
молитва?
refuge, or I can speak about it, talk about it?
Well, you should say the refuge prayer. So you don't have to use the one I have. I made after with instruction from Geshe Michael after course 6. But no, you should. The proper way of doing it is to say the refuge prayer 3 times during the day and 3 times at night. Now, if you're a white tar practitioner, it's within, you say it 3 times in the morning when you do that practice. I'm trying to think where else is it embedded. In many of the tantric practices, when you do the sadhana, it's embedded. What else? I came across this recently. That's a good question. My advice is to formally go for refuge 3 times a day and 3 times a night. Okay. Bye-bye. Hope your dad has a safe trip. Both your fathers have safe trip to Sydney. That's a long airplane ride. Wow. How long are they going to stay in Sydney?
Maybe 2 weeks,
Wow.
because he wants to go to New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
It's close.
Yes. Once if you're all the way to Australia, you might as well go see New Zealand, that's for sure. How about Svetlana, how about your dad? Is he going to be there for is it business? He's going on business?
No, they're traveling. They're having cruise, and I guess they might be in New Zealand these days, and then they return to Sydney to travel back home.
Wow. Well, I loved Australia. I really did. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good couple next days. We'll see you Thursday. Oh, we didn't do, yeah, we did. We did it. We didn't do the normal dedication. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.